Dream Something Big, the story of Watts Towers by Diana Hutz Aston, collages by Susan Roth. No traffic jam delay. See, I was driving over the moon in my big hot air balloon. I didn't know it then, but that single chip of tile was no longer trash. It was the first building block to a candy-covered castle. Uncle Sam was my neighbor. His name was Simon, but we never called him that. We lived in Watts, California on 107th Street, where the aroma of tamales sizzled in the air, where the trucks of Japanese farmers rumbled to and from vegetable markets, where music and laughter rippled from diners and dancers at the Watts Tavern. No one really knew what to think about Uncle Sam. This man who talked to himself as he hunted through garbage heaps for those things no one wanted. A rainbow of broken teapots, plates, tiles, and sparkling bottles. I collected jewels with him along the railroad tracks. Sacks and sacks and sacks of them. My favorite were the tiles of blue flowers, the soda bottles with the girl and the bubbles, and the green horse. For every bag of bits, he gave me a penny, and pennies. Bought a lot of candy. Uncle Sam worked in a tile factory every day except Sundays and holidays. But he worked on his creation every night, every Sunday, every holiday. He took those bags of glass and smashed them. I watched him shove steel rods under the railroad tracks and transform them into rings. Uncle Sam was small and skinny, but his muscles were mighty. Well, I hope it has for some. In Broken Things, he saw what no one else noticed. He found hearts in the backs of old ice cream parlor chairs, flowers in faucet handles, the sun in rusty gears. People who couldn't see the hearts and flowers wondered, why build it? Why build it? I can't tell you, he said. Why a man make the pants? Why a man make the shoes? In my big hot air balloon. Uncle Sam talked to himself while he mixed a secret recipe of mortar. This much sand, this much cement, and this much water. Cement as powdery as flour, sand as finely ground as sugar, and water to bind to them. He wrapped wire mesh around the poles, smothered the cement around them, and carefully pressed a jigsaw of jewels into his batter of wet cement. Day after day, year after year, working on this something big without gloves until his fingerprints wore away. A ship appeared, a tower rose, a cactus garden bloomed. See, I was driving over the moon. In his strange mix of Italian and English that was difficult for all of us to understand, he told us about the great towers and the ship he'd seen as a child in the parades of his village of Ribatoli. Towers that were 6 stories high. Uncle Sam worked long into the night, singing to himself, flitting from rung to rung like a firefly. Turn out the light, Uncle Sam. I'm a-working up here, Marguerite. Every day the trains pass by with tens of thousands of passengers a week going to and from Los Angeles. The towers were Uncle Sam's stage, the passengers his audience. Dust from the train swirled around him, but he didn't let it bother him. He was in the spotlight. Another tower arose. Uncle Sam showed my children the triangles in the branches of the trees. Triangles, he said, were the strongest shapes, and he built his towers with triangles, day after day, year after year. He showed me and my children the beauty of a broken angel, a bowling ball, a boot. The usefulness of an airplane wing, the patterns shells and rocks could make. Uncle Sam was like a spider weaving his web of steel and cement and lacy shadows. The 3rd tower was his last. He wrote his initials in Nuestro Pueblo in cement. Our town, a village for the world. Well, I hope it has for some. Not long after that, Uncle Sam suddenly put away his tools and jewels and stopped building. We were all surprised. He put on a suit, pinned his life savings inside of it, and gave the deed to his triangle lot with its ship and towers, fountain and gardens to a friend and walked away. We never saw Uncle Sam again. But I remember him, my Uncle Sam, my neighbor, for 34 years, the dreamer. People no longer call Simon Drodia foolish and crazy. They call him a man of genius who built a gigantic flower of folk art, a man with a heart full of gratitude to the country that had invited him to dream without limits, the country that had given him the freedom to reach for the sky. Uncle Sam's Something Big is now a national landmark. Are you ready to make your very own art inspired by Watts Towers? Well, you're going to need a piece of paper, pencil or marker, and scissors. Find the corner of the paper and then do a curved line further down and make another one, maybe a little bit smaller. Next, you're going to want to get some scissors and cut along the line that you made on both sides. And like the story said, there was lots of wire and rods in his towers. So you can make some spirals from the tip of the triangle at the top all the way to the bottom and fill it up with lines. Then you're going to want to roll the triangle to make a cone. Keep it, pinch the top and then make the bottom part wider and basically glue it at the bottom. So you're going to make a cone, much like a party hat. You might need to snip off the loose ends at the bottom so it can be more stabilized when you stand it up. Thank my stars forever be green. You have no idea what it means. No. To a man. Now that you have some towers, you can gather some scrap paper and cut it into strips to make little squares to create kind of like a mosaic look onto your towers. Much like the Watts Towers are made of pieces of ceramic and put together with mortar called to make a mosaic, you're going to do that with paper to make a paper mosaic. Something special happened today. I got green lights all the way with no big red sign.